Hi everyone, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. Today on John's Briefs, sitting here with Tim Forshee, attorney at law.
Attorney at large.
At large, yeah. And,
Sadly.
And you know, some of these attorneys use Esquire.
Oh God.
Some attorneys use big fancy terms. Not Tim, he's just
I
Tim.
hate that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, pretentious terms make the world go round.
If I get a letterhead from an opposing counsel I don't know and they've got Esquire on, oh boy. No.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
We recently had a video on the channel of an unarmed carjacking. That was an interesting one. We don't see that. This is actually, I think, the first I've ever seen.
I would just simply intervene or interject and say, apparently unarmed, right?
And apparently,
so that's, you know,
unarmed.
Everybody always says that. I'm like, did they go through a magnetometer? How do you know they weren't armed? Because I didn't know that at the time, so yeah.
And so I asked on the main channel analysis of that, now wait a minute, is the use of deadly force against an unarmed attacker justified? Well, let's talk to the attorney about it.
To win the fight after the fight, you need help. After a use of force, I trust Firearms Legal Protection to help me win the fight for the rest of my life. From their 24/7 attorney-answered hotline to coverage for the use of all legal tools, Firearms Legal Protection has you covered. Get a discount by signing up at the link below.
The little bit of information I have here is that this guy is doing a rideshare service. So a guy shows up, shows him, hey, I'm your ride. And as he steps in, another guy comes in from the other side to try to start getting into his car. They announce a carjacking. Well, our intended victim is an off-duty cop doing an off-duty gig. And so he pops that guy and takes his life. The other guy ran off. I have very little news on this one. I don't see a gun in the hand of the deceased. I did not see one in the hand of his accomplice either. Our good guy jumps out of the car on the passenger side and then stays there while a crowd gathers. Now, almost everything I've seen said this was an attempted carjacking that went south. Our good guy lived. We have some interesting stuff to think about here from a legal perspective in the United States. I do think it's an interesting thing because it's one we don't see very often.
I'm glad you brought it up. You don't see it very often, and it is an important question because it happens. People need to understand this, yeah. And not even just shooting, but a lot of ag assaults. Why did you draw your weapon? Well, there was two of them. Yeah, but neither one of them had a weapon. Well, I didn't know that. I mean, you get into this whole thing where it doesn't require the dramatic video of somebody getting shot, which is what we focus on. Because I focus on people that are in trouble. And you know, 9 times out of 10, literally according to statistics, 9 times out of 10, you don't have to fire your gun. Yeah. So the vast majority of the cases I work on, no shots were fired. But you're still in a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, aggravated assault is a serious felony, right? You're going to spend a good chunk of your life in a state-sponsored gated community.
Yep.
And trust me, the buffet there is not good. It's not. And so I think that in this particular case, the fact that there's 2 carjackers presents a pretty strong disparity.
That's going to help, yeah. And also from 2 different directions.
Right.
So, yeah.
So 2 directions, 2 attackers, because now this is interesting. I don't know that I've run this by you, that we talk about, because we've seen it, that a single factor of disparity, some prosecutors are cool and some aren't.
I want more than one if I can, yeah.
2 or more if I can. If I can get 2 factors of disparity, then chances are I don't have any problems.
And here I couldn't tell because it was the video wasn't of high quality. It was from a top angle going down. But there might have been an age issue too. It looked like the shooter might have been a little 10 years older, so that might, we might be able to factor that in a bit. Now, if he's 30 and they're 20, probably not a hell lot of help. But if he's 50 and they're 30 or something, that's helpful.
It also came out of South Africa, and so the use of force laws in South Africa are maybe a little sketchier than they are here. Yep. You know, I don't know about sketchier. There are still little tiny pockets of America where he needed killing is a viable defense.
It's usually the bastard needed killing.
That guy needed killing is. I've seen that in East Texas a little bit. I've seen it in Georgia. That he needed killing is a viable defense. All right, South Africa. 2 dudes jumping into a car. Now I think even in the U.S., 2 guys jumping into a car and using force to take that car from you. Right. That's a forcible felony.
Yeah, clearly they were going to forcibly eject him from the vehicle. Now, how far would that have gone? They're just going to grab him, and if he's compliant, they're just going to throw him out of the car? Are they going to throw him out of the car and then kick him in the head when he's down on the pavement and curb stomp him? I mean, you don't know. That's what we're going to explain to the jury. I don't have to wait until I'm stabbed to realize I might get stabbed. And that's the logic here. So, but yeah, it'd be more defensible case if one of them had a knife in his hand, for sure. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, if one of them has a knife in his hands, well, hey, he threatened me with that knife, and that was going to send me to the hospital or the morgue. Done. Yeah. I think with the fact that, hey, he forcibly opened my door, and jumped in my car and threatened me for my car. Now we're taking, a use of force in the taking of a car. So I've got a carjacking.
Right.
That's a serious crime.
And one thing you always throw, I've taught CCW classes 3 times a month for 30 years, so I've probably faced, I think, most questions. And one question I would get, there'd be that guy in the back of the room that's dressed up like the mall ninja, and he would start kind of chuckling, and I would say, why are you chuckling? He says, well, there's no knife yet. And he's going to put a drop knife in the guy's hand. Folks, I'm telling you, you are on video. In our society, if you're not sitting on your own toilet, and maybe even then, you're on video, okay? And maybe your fingerprints aren't on the knife, but your DNA is. And you're setting yourself up for an unbelievably easy first-degree murder charge at that point. So don't even be tempted. You go on some of these websites, and here's how you sterilize a gun, soak it in acetone, keep it in a baggie in your attic, and here's your drop gun. And the cops aren't going to be there for 7 minutes. That's plenty of time. Oh my God, every time I see one of those, I just want to vomit. It's just like, wow.
Don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Exactly. So don't even think, I'll plant my pocket knife in his hand before the cops get here. Nope, it ain't going to
Tampering with a crime scene is a high-level felony all its own.
And not only that, it makes everything that you've told the jury at any other point a lie. And murderers lie. So don't fall victim to that.
If you're in the Active Self-Protection Unlimited app, you can watch a trial that I testified in. You can only get the portion of the trial that is about the illegal possession of a short-barreled rifle. But the rest of that trial was about a man who snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. And you can hear a little bit about it in the app. If you're not in the app, hey man, that's a fun one in there and is exclusive content.
Get in the app if you're not in the app. Come on, get with it.
So this is one of those cases that I always say, edge cases make bad laws and bad examples.
Right.
And so, but also I think there's an aggravating thing here that for most of us, like I don't do ride share, so I'm not inviting strangers into my car.
Yeah.
I'm just not. That's just not what I do. But if I'm a ride share driver, Uber, Lyft, whatever, any of those, that's what I do for a living.
I think I told you the story of one of the 4 times in the last 31 years that I was in a situation where I was contemplating drawing my weapon was against an Uber driver. So it wasn't the Uber driver who was afraid of the passenger. It was the passenger who was being threatened by the Uber driver.
Wow.
And now we've got in the Phoenix area, and I think they're doing it in LA as well. We have these Waymos everywhere. So these robot, driverless vehicles, and you first see those and you kind of go, oh my God, you freak out. My daughters have fallen in love with those because they've had so many Uber drivers make passes at them and drive them around because they want to spend time with them and smell their perfume a little bit longer. And my daughters are sick of that, and they love these robot driving cars because it avoids the problem from both directions. So, but yeah, the ride shares are an issue in our society for sure. You don't know what's going on there.
Once the robots gain sentience, we'll start having real problems. But hey, that's John Connor already showed us how to do it.
They solve all our problems, Johnny. We all know.
I welcome our robot overlords. So again, this idea of, is this lawful? I think in the U.S., you're probably going to get pretty good deference to dudes carjacking.
I think so. And again, you're much more familiar with South American crime than I am, but there's this, if a guy on a bicycle with a guy on a moped with a second guy on a moped pulls up, you know they're going to carjack you, and the guy back behind him has a automatic Glock with a 33-round magazine, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's this guy was an off-duty police officer, you said, right? So he had all the law enforcement bias there. And if he's expecting that he's going to get shot because that's the pattern of these carjackings in that locale, I think that's something that comes out at the trial too, and that's going to help him quite a bit. But here, if there's 2 guys trying to pull me out of my car, I think I'm reasonably in fear for my life. And of course, I'm older. I'm not as fit as I once was, and that's going to factor in my favor. But there's a strong chance that they're going to run over me or kick me in the head when I'm out of the car, or stealing that car is a major felony. If they eliminate the only witness to that and they get caught for that, they're probably not in a whole lot more trouble, sadly.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where, I think that you're in fear for your life. So I would, and again, people say, well, is that okay? Can you do that? Is this a good shooting? I always say, well, we'll find out in 18 months from 12 strangers.
Right.
That's not an answer any lawyer who's being honest can give you. You want to always try to edge towards not having that happen in any way you possibly can. But if it happens, there's no answer as to whether that was a good shooting or not a good shooting. And we've talked before about there's no such thing as a good shooting. It ruins your life.
Can, should,
exactly,
must.
Right. It's always must. Yeah.
And if you're in must, I had all the evidence in the world. I was absolutely sure I was going to die if I didn't shoot that guy. When you shoot that guy, hey, 2 dudes, one of them pointed a gun at me. They said, get out of the car or I'm going to blow your brains out.
Right.
I got to shoot this guy. He's going to kill me. Okay, then I'm probably okay here. I'm a 49-year-old, relatively fit, martial arts experienced guy sitting in my driver's seat, and a dude jumps in my passenger seat and says, give me your car. No. Get out of here, you knucklehead.
Yeah.
Give me your car or I'm going to beat you up. I don't think so, Scooter. Now, oh my gosh, he's coming right for me. Bang. I think in my case, with my set of facts, I'm going to have a hard time with that. Two dudes, opposite sides of the car. Maybe and can I?
Right.
But I'm going to get a long, hard look.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a big ask from the detectives and from the prosecutors. Why'd you do that?
I always, we both talked to lots of people that have been through this, and one of the questions I always ask them is, what was going through your mind when you pulled the trigger? And if what was going through your mind was, if I don't pull the trigger, I'm going to die, then we should be able to do pretty good with that case.
Yep.
If what's going through your mind is, should I shoot this guy? Then we probably don't have a very good case, because if it's really the moment of truth and you're about to die, you're probably not questioning why you're doing it. And if you're trying to decide whether to or not to do it, then it's obviously at least a close call. And that might mean it's very difficult to prove that, that you did the right thing. So people always say, I knew I was going to die, and so I shot him. Okay, I get that. I would have done the same thing in that situation.
As long as you have objective, reasonable evidence to back that belief.
Correct. If it's he said, she said, then that's not good either, yeah.
Yeah, reasonable evidence to back that belief that says, no, I was sure I was going to die, and here's why.
Right.
Then we're probably all right. But, hey, remember, single disparities.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The more the merrier.
The more the merrier.
All of you 85-year-old ladies with MS in wheelchairs, I hope you're packing a pistol.
Yeah, you should be.
Because you've got all the disparity on your side.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And again, when as we get into our senior years, that gives us some presumptions.
And you're also likely to be preyed upon. You're viewed as helpless. So yeah, that's something. I've got clients who are elderly in wheelchairs, and they come and they take private CCW classes, and we figure out ways to adapt their wheelchair and what kind of gun works and what's their grip strength, and have you tried the Smith & Wesson EZ, and you try to accommodate those folks because they're likely to be preyed upon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And hear me, I hope you guys understand. I'm not bringing you these kinds of videos where we're talking about this stuff to dissuade you from carrying a gun. I carry one every day. I'm carrying one right now. I'm literally at the gun range, okay? I'm at the least likely place to have somebody mug me in America. I live in a safe neighborhood, and yet every time I have pants on, I have a gun on. And I'm not trying to dissuade you from doing that. I'm not trying to dissuade you from using it when you need to. But I am trying to say it's a tool of last resort. If the consequences of using it are completely untenable, I can't live with the consequences of not using it, then use it.
Yep.
And then deal with the ride later. Mm-hmm. But in those wobblers is the ones that Tim buys houses on.
Yeah.
Okay? They're the ones that I get a call from the attorney that says, I need an expert. And once you're explaining to the jury, when you're starting to educate the jury, you're losing.
Yeah.
And I hear this all the time. John, this case is not a darling. It's not perfect. And I always say, you never hire an expert on a case that's a darling, okay?
And cases don't go to trial that are perfect.
Right.
By definition. You've either gotten the case dismissed or it's a clear-cut screw-up. It's only those wobblers, like John says, that are going to go to trial. Yeah.
Well, this client, he probably shouldn't have, and there was some stink on it, and there's some of that stuff. Those are the ones that end up in trial. And those are the ones where we end up going, well, we can probably explain that. But we're going to have to spend a bunch of time explaining it at expensive expert witness rates. So anyhow, guys, disparity there, I think, in the U.S. in that particular case, which again we showed a little bit of, and go see the full analysis on the main channel. Try not to get into gunfights that are optional, okay? Because those start to cause you problems.
Whether there's 2 guys that are unarmed or 3 guys that are armed, when you pull the trigger, just know that you had no choice but to pull the trigger. And if that's true, then we'll get a jury to understand it as well. Or more importantly, before that, a prosecutor.
There it is. Tim, thanks for the knowledge.
Always, Johnny. Thanks, man. Thanks for tuning in.